Games should not be over 10 hours long.
That is you. That's literally you.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Should they be? I am wrong?
You are wrong.
Why?
Because Breath of the Wild was the best 58 hours of my life.
Yeah, but imagine Breath of the Wild being 10 hours and it still being the best 10 hours of your life.
But I got 48 more hours out of it than you want me to. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another steaming hot edition of Cup of Joe's. I'm your host, Joe Brown, joined by my best friend, Joe Perrion. And Joe, here on episode 86, we're going to have to recap a couple of directs and recap my weekend in Baltimore that I spent at the end of it, because I know you were curious about it. So, Joe Perrion, good sir, how are you?
Fine. How are you, Joseph? It's been a day.
Wow.
It's National Forensic Science Week, and it's been quite the week already, and I already want it to be over.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that as your response. I appreciate it. I appreciate the honesty of it, but, I wasn't expecting it. You need a whole week to celebrate science?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, it's like a whole week long. You can't get a day like National Taco Day or something? National Ice Cream Day?
Are you saying my job isn't important?
Is it a week's worth important compared to tacos or pancakes?
Wow, I remember this, Joe. Also, you're right. It does come out on the 4th of October.
What, that game we talked about before we were recording?
Yeah, Overwatch 2 comes out on the 4th of October.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for filling everybody in on the game.
We were talking
He
about
was answering
Overwatch
a question that was not posed on the recording.
It's fine. It's fine. Let there be some mystery, Joseph. Jeez. Oh my God. Oh my God.
All right. So, last week was the long anticipated Nintendo Direct. It was like over 40 minutes. It was actually a lot going on.
It was an hour long because I was working and I was like, man, I'm watching this. This is great. It's going to be 20 minutes long. And 40 minutes later, I was like, okay, this needs to end because I need to go do some other things.
Yeah, it was a lot longer than I had thought it would be. And then, if you're a fan of farming life sims and making friends with the locals and growing crops and everything like that, you really went out on this direct because there was literally 5 different farming slice of life simulator games. It seems weird, right? It seems weird for Nintendo to consciously put so many similar games in the same direct.
I was like, they're like, hey, check out Farming Simulator 2022. And I was like, oh, cool. And then like, hey, check out I Own a Barn and a Cow and a Farm 2022. And I was like, what's the difference? And then they're like, hey, you want to plant stuff? Plant Me coming out 2022. And I was like, what's with the farm sims? We get it.
Yeah, so I'm just looking down the list as we're going to go over some of the most important things revealed in the direct. But Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life is getting a remake as Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. Fae Farm is another one with a mix of magic and farming. Harvestella gets a demo. There was one that was you have to save the world through growing crops or something. I don't remember which one that was. And your dad died, and you really gotta grow those tomatoes if you want to save the planet.
Do you mean what was it? Do you mean it was like a Stardew Valley clone, but it was on heroin or something like that?
Yeah, and then Various Day Life was the other one that I'm seeing here on the list. So yeah, that's 4.
Oh. And then there was SpongeBob SquarePants Farm Bikini Bottoms. That was another one that was on there.
There you go. Okay.
It wasn't. I was a joke, everybody.
There was a SpongeBob game, though.
Yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake swims to Switch in 2023. I thought the name... I thought that was the whole name for a minute. The Cosmic Shake swims. And I'm like, I was like, that's not it.
It's
Crap.
like, man, Nickelodeon's really getting meta here with their
They're,
titles.
they're really kind of doing it up.
All
I
right,
was actually I was surprised. Okay, I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
I was
go
about
ahead.
to.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so like watching I watched what GamesCon when that happened, and there was a lot of good games in there. And then I was surprised to see one or two on the direct. Specifically, Endless Dungeon. I was surprised to see the Endless Dungeon on this direct because it's a pretty big game. Another roguelike that's set in space that's coming out that I signed up to play test and hopefully get into. But I was very surprised to see that coming to the Switch because it made me think, it's like, oh, maybe I'll get it for the Switch instead of for my computer. And
I was surprised some of these games were not saved for a Nindies showcase. And I know not every, like, obviously Harvest Moon's not an indie, if you want to call it that. But, like,
indie. Okay.
yeah, it's the Nindies, Nintendo Indie. It's their
Nintendo
branch.
Indie game.
It's a whole,
Yeah.
like, branch of development under Nintendo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they'll have Nindy showcases that are, like, essentially like Nintendo Directs, but for indie games that they're partnering with or whatever. So I was surprised, especially for some of those farming games, but other things which made this whole presentation like 43 minutes long. I was surprised some of those things weren't taken out so that Bayonetta and Fire Emblem and Tears of the Kingdom, I should say, got more shine. So let's start there because obviously that's the biggest and most important news to us, Joe, and for most of people watching.
Throw this microphone across the room. What?
You don't think the sequel to Breath of the Wild is the most important thing to talk about from the direct?
Oh, that's not what I thought you said. I thought you said. I was like, I heard Fire Emblem was the most important thing in the Nintendo Direct, and I was like, excuse me, Joe Brown, I understand you like Fire Emblem, but you can get your whole ass out of this room right now.
You should go get you should get your ears cleaned because I clearly stated Tears of the Kingdom, the most important thing in the direct here. So we got the reveal of the name.
I keep forgetting that that's the name of it. So
right.
I
truly. All right. So let's go over the name because remember, Joe, if you remember when we were here, you were over my house and we recorded the episode. We were trying to think of something for the title of it. And we was like, it's going to be of the something, kind of keep the same cadence to it, but like. Tears of the Kingdom, right? Tears of the Kingdom is fine. I just think it's like a little weird. I also think I can't fathom the people that needed the clarification on if it was tears or tears. Because that was a real thing. No, that was a real thing on the internet. People were like, how do you pronounce this? It's like, well, there's tear droplets in the trailer from E3 last year. There have been tear key items in previous Zelda games. It's Tears of the Kingdom. And remember, the direct was delayed because the Queen died. And it's called Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. So why on earth would it be Tears of the Kingdom? That just doesn't even, it's not even a sentence. That doesn't make sense.
Well, it makes sense in the sense if you look at the artwork, all of these pieces of Hyrule are now floating in the sky. So Tears of the Kingdom, like the ground is tearing itself apart.
But you still wouldn't call it tears, though. You would say tear, maybe, but
I'm sorry to say this, but like you can call anything now. Like it could have been that, and I understand why people would have.
I don't understand how people thought it was tears when it's like clearly tears are a thing in Zelda games.
I will say like. Tears made the most sense. Also, if Hyrule is tearing apart, like it would bring tears to the people of Hyrule,
and as it would for the people when the Queen dies, which is tears again. Crazy. Like
they also said they delayed it because they felt like it would be a spoiler for something. I don't remember what they said it would be a spoiler for, but I remember seeing an article saying they delayed the announcement of the name of the game earlier due to it being a spoiler.
Yes,
for something else.
I remember that vaguely. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was talking to. But yes, I was very excited when they announced this. It's on my calendar. I'm pumped. Can't wait to get back with my good boy Link. Side note for Joseph, I have my first tattoo scheduled for January 2nd, and
No,
it's going to be a Zelda themed tattoo.
you didn't
Um,
tell me this.
it happened within the last like few weeks, so I just got it in the books. Put my deposit down. It's gonna be great. Um,
Nice. I'm very happy.
yeah, and then I also might book another one with another artist in Charlotte because he offered to give me half off due to him wanting to do the character that I want.
So,
Um,
are we not going to get our matching Wind Waker tattoos now?
well, we can get that. This one's gonna be the Ocarina of Time themed Zelda, so
Okay, that's fine.
um, I'm gonna and then
I'll allow
I'm
it.
gonna and then I'm gonna get Deku tattooed on me as well.
Yeah,
He's my favorite boy.
yeah.
Um,
All right, get back to the
all right.
gameplay here.
It looked, but here's the thing: we don't have a lot to go off. The trailer didn't show any more than anything else that we've seen so far. Besides giving us a name, and besides Link dramatically opening a large door, we
What's a large
saw
door?
it was a very large door. We did see one thing of him like landing on something that was flying through the air, but that's about really all we could say for what's going on with that game. We saw multiple things earlier.
Well, it had like the murals of like the paint
had-
changing stuff, which was
Yeah.
mirroring Breath of the Wild with those murals about the fight of
Yeah.
Calamity Ganon. So, like, there's definitely a lot of mirroring, symmetry
Yeah.
going on in these two games.
I believe someone also made a comment stating that this is the first Zelda game that is using the same Hyrule as the previous game.
Yeah.
I don't think any sequel to any Zelda game has used a similar area like this one has, because
Because they've every if
Always
one
been
comes
a-
out every 6 years, it's always been reimagined.
well, it's not. Yeah, I guess it's like reimagined, but it's also always been like the next champion of time,
Yeah.
who is also named like Link, but they expect you to name him something different. So like this is a pretty big deal. We're excited at the Cup of Joe's house about this game, but Joseph, as much as I was excited to see the Breath of the Wild sequel, I do need to say I was pretty pumped about the Pikmin 4 being announced.
Really?
They haven't put out a game for I don't know how long.
Long time.
A long time.
Well, you could play the Pikmin mobile Pokemon Go game where you
I
can
have
walk
that.
around,
I've tried
walk around
it.
the city
I've
and
tried
plant flowers if you want.
it. I have tried it.
What do you think?
It's like Pokemon Go.
Oh, okay. I've never
It's
been
like-
I've never been a Pikmin fan, to be honest. So I was not excited. Like, if we talk about the whole Miyamoto segment where he comes out and he's like, "By the way, Mario movie still exists. Won't show you any footage though. Also, Pikmin 4 exists, still exists because they announced that forever ago and then canned it and brought it back. So Pikmin 4 still exists. Won't show you any footage though." And then he just dipped. So that was a little.
They showed us some.
Nope,
They
not
showed
for
us-
no, not for. They had like the little guy, the red guy.
That's
But that's not like no. I'm not counting it. I'm not counting it.
they showed your character with Pikmin fighting an enemy.
No, that was just Pikmin in general. He was talking about.
No, that was from the new game, bro.
What are you talking
They showed
about?
they showed them sleeping. They showed
Hold on.
all this stuff.
Hold on. Because this article says we didn't learn too much about it. Shigeru Miyamoto stopped by the Nintendo Direct to announce that Pikmin 4 will finally be released on Switch in 2023.
He announced that the way you play the game is closer to the ground than closer to the Pikmin. It shows a picture of it.
Yeah,
in
I see that, but like you don't. It's not enough. It's not enough. That's what
Of
I'm
course,
saying.
it's not enough, but it's there.
The game, as it says in this article, the game was nearing completion in 2015, and now it's coming out in 2023. So I think people deserve more information.
I think we deserve more information about Zelda, but whatever.
But Zelda, we've at least been getting stuff. Like, we had the E3,
Yeah.
then we had the delay in the spring, then we had this one here, and then we know it's coming out in May. So if there's a January Nintendo Direct or something like that, you'll probably get another thing from Zelda, another snippet on it. But like honestly, I'm at this point with Tears of the Kingdom that I don't even necessarily need more information on it. You know what I mean? Like
I guess,
it's
but they
it
can't.
kind of sells itself at this point. It's a sequel to one of the greatest games Nintendo has ever made.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
like they don't need to spoil everything for me on that, like, because I'm gonna get it.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, so like it's okay if they didn't show us much in the Zelda trailer. That's what it was like, compared to Pikmin, where that franchise has been so dormant for so long that you really got to sell people on it to get the hype back. And I don't think him with that little snippet and a 4 T-shirt from Miyamoto, I don't think that's enough.
They showed a little bit afterwards.
But I'm just saying.
I think the people that are Pikmin fans are still we're still hyped. I shared it with 2 friends of mine who are very big Pikmin fans, and they both almost fell out of their chairs.
Okay. Well, I'm likely not going to be.
Why not? You never played? Did you not?
I
really
played Pikmin on the GameCube once, and I was just too.
It wasn't for you.
I was just too dumb. I was too young or something. I just really didn't get it. But I've never really been interested in it. And then like I don't really like Olimar in Smash either. Like he's very frustrating a character too. Like just being completely honest, that's another. I'm being honest with you. That is another reason that I don't find Pikmin appealing because of Smash.
That's fine, but I was gonna say like in Smash, the Olimar's character is like the worst, and that's not how he is in Pikmin.
No, I just don't
Like,
enjoy playing against the character. You know.
Yeah, that's fair. That is 100% fair. But let's talk about let's move on to some other games. I'm not gonna hone in on your hatred for Pikmin.
Joe, I've known you for, let's say, 9 years now. I think it's 9 years. I don't know if it was 10. It's probably 8 or 9 years now. I've never once heard you mention this love of Pikmin that you've had.
Yeah, I know. It was just exciting to see it. Like I played the original one. I played the second one. I didn't really play the third one. I don't even remember. I thought it was going to be Pikmin 3, so I don't remember there ever being a third one. The game has always been interesting to me. I've always found it very interesting. You being a small man that crash lands on an alien planet and your ship breaks and you need to go home. It was always like, as a kid, it was like a game that I always played, but I could never beat. And that's what made it much more interesting to me, is I could never beat it. So I never knew what I was doing. I always ended up like walking around and like getting lost and like falling into these huge traps of these huge enemies, but I would somehow always end up beating them. And it was always very interesting. I always never knew what I was doing, but it was still an interesting game. But it doesn't compare to my love for like Zelda and BioShock and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next game. The other, like, I guess the next biggest in announcement, which was the biggest for me, obviously.
I was gonna say we might have 2 different opinions on the next biggest announcement. But go ahead.
It's listed next on the article, Joe.
Fair.
I guess we'll find out what you think it was, but for me, Fire Emblem Engage was announced as a new mainline series game for Fire Emblem, and it comes out in January. So that's like a I didn't mean Pokemon. Nintendo and Intelligent Systems do this a lot with the Fire Emblem games, where they'll give it like 4 or 5 months of marketing. Like they won't really push it for years, like how Nintendo does with Zelda and Mario games and stuff like that. So it's surprising that it is coming so quickly. But if you think about how we haven't gotten the mainline Fire Emblem games since the summer of 2019, like we got Fire Emblem Hopes, which was the Warrior spinoff this summer. But it has been since 2019 since we got a mainline game. It definitely makes sense. It feels like it is time for one, and I'm very excited about the new game.
Great. I'm glad you're super pumped about it, Joe. I can't wait to hear you tell me about it when you play it.
I was surprised that it was the first video. You know what I mean? They started the direct with Fire Emblem.
I thought it would be a little bit deeper in, because that's another one of their, that's like another like bread and butter of theirs that they always kind of like pull out, is the Fire Emblem series. They're like, oh, check it out, look what we got.
Yeah, I am interested to find out some of the decisions behind it, because if you saw the trailer, if you saw there's like 12 different icons of different Fire Emblem characters from previous games that the current characters in Fire Emblem Engage can call on. They call them emblems. So like the main character, the guy with the red and blue hair, he calls on Marth, and an emblem of Marth comes and helps him in battle and stuff. But there's like Marth and Corrin and Ike and Lucina and different things. So I wonder how that's gonna work, because it could just be like somewhat of a replacement to the pair-up mechanic that was in the 3DS Fire Emblem games. Like it could be somewhat of a pseudo replacement, and it looks like you build bonds with those emblems as well. Like so, like a unit like Sigurd was on a horse, so he's a cavalier, and they in the trailer paired up with one of the new characters that's also a cavalier. So there's like synergies. Like, and then a girl who was a mage had the mage Celica as her emblem. So there's like positive bonuses to matching classes and stuff. But like, is it only going to be those 12 characters, or are we going to get like 30 historically popular Fire Emblem characters from the franchise? Because this game was like, the rumors were it was supposed to be released for the 30th anniversary, and it's so much like Fire Emblem Heroes, the mobile game, or in that game you're also summoning heroes to your aid on it. So it definitely makes sense why the two are so connected. But like, it looks more classic, like tile based Fire Emblem compared to Three Houses, which I know is gonna sound dumb because it also was on tiles, but it felt different. Like if you look at Three Houses compared to the other Fire Emblem games, it just doesn't feel the same on the map there. So I like that Engage is actually visually like going back to more of that like consistently tile based fighting with like clear squares, like clear black lines, and I don't know how else to explain. If you would have had to play Three Houses and then looked at Engage to see what I'm referring to.
I got you. Well, I'm glad that you're pumped about the Fire Emblem game. I know it's a big part of your I was gonna say life, but I feel like it's a weird way to say that.
No, but it is. I mean, it was for a long time. Like, I played a lot of Fire Emblem Heroes. The first 2.5 years, I was super hardcore. Like I would say I was a dolphin. I wasn't a whale, but I was pretty big into that. And then I quit cold turkey because I spent like $100 and didn't get the unit I wanted. And I said, "What am I doing with my life?" And I deleted it. And I haven't touched it since. But all the Fire Emblem games, went back and played some of the older ones as well. Ever since I started, so that is fair. It's probably one of my top 3 franchises in general. But I don't know if it's third, because obviously Pokemon and Kingdom Hearts are 1 and 2. Like, it's probably third, and if it's not, like it's 4th or 5th. So it's up there for me.
It's one of your top 5 at least.
Right. League would be in there, and then I'd have to think about a 5th one. No. It's up there. I'm sorry, Joe.
No.
Joe. League of Legends has me reading a book. Can you believe that? A book.
First off, League. It's not like League of Legends isn't what pulled you in. It was, what is it? Team Fight Tactics.
No, I've been playing League forever.
We didn't play in college, and I played a lot of League in college.
I started in season 3. In season 3 of League of Legends.
Yeah, we talked about this. It was not when you were in college.
What?
I keep forgetting.
Yes, I was. I was a sophomore in college in Forest Hills playing with Mark and Jeff and all of my communication friends that we were playing League as a sophomore and junior.
Me and my roommates were also playing League in junior year, just yelling and screaming at each other.
Yeah, so you probably stopped playing by the time I met you in the latter half of junior year, the second half. For me,
no, I met you.
It was your senior year, my junior year, right?
I think I was still playing. But I think you weren't really. I think we didn't talk about it. I think we both were ashamed of it.
You couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to tell anybody about it. Anyway, so my big announcement that I thought was pretty big was the announcement of the new N64 games coming to the Switch.
Oh, Mr. GoldenEye.
That one, but more of like Mario Party and Pokemon Stadium. Like all of those were all announced about coming to the Switch in the upcoming month. I think both of the Mario parties are coming out.
Yeah, I've got it right here. So, GoldenEye, Pilot Wings, Mario Party 1 and 2. Well, wait, actually, it's not. It's not ordered. So I'll do it here. So GoldenEye, Pilot Wings, Mario Party 1, 2, 3, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excitebike 64 are all coming in 2022 or 2023. I believe the first batch drop is Mario Party 1 and 2, and then 3 comes next year, and then Stadium 1 and Stadium 2 is next year, but I could be wrong about the time.
No, you're right. You're right, because the snowboarding game is the first one to drop this year. It's that game, and then it's the Mario Party games,
right?
And then I think Excitebike is within the next in 2023.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was what I thought was a pretty big, and then of course like the announcement of GoldenEye. That was pretty big as well.
I am excited to play GoldenEye not on an N64 controller, you know what I mean?
For real, yeah, for real.
And just see how the game holds up without that nonsense controller.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. N64 games, great. What's next?
All right, we got Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe brings a Wii classic to the Switch. I haven't really played many Kirby games in my life. I know some people are going to kill me for it. I played the one on Super Nintendo a lot as a kid, but
I think I did too. I also, the one game I did play on GameCube was the Kirby, what was it? Kirby Speed Racer, whatever one we were like speeding around a city, collecting power-ups and fighting your friends.
Was it Air Ride? Kirby Air Ride?
Kirby Air Ride. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I haven't played a lot of Kirby. I played the one on N64, and that was about it.
I've got some friends that are big Kirby fans. Like our boy Schnabel's a big Kirby fan, so I'm sure he'll be excited about this new game.
Didn't you both play the newest Kirby?
No,
or was
he
that
did.
Just Schnabel?
He did. He was streaming it, but no, I didn't buy it. Because didn't Kirby come out when the Persona 4 Arena Ultimax and Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise and Tunic and Tiny Tina's and like it was just like a whole time.
It did come out in the spring.
Yeah. Up next, one of Joe's most anticipated games because he's just a really big fan of the name because it's a really good name. Classic Square Enix continues.
Why do you lie to our listeners like this?
Octopath Traveler 2 announced with new heroes in the same wonderful 2D HD art style. This was actually a pretty big announcement, I would say. Octopath has kind of gained I don't want to say cult following, but like a large following for Square Enix and for JRPG fans. So the fact that Octopath, they didn't just make a sequel in the same art style, like they made a whole new thing with 8 new characters with their 8 new stories. Like it's like a whole full-fledged, like they didn't phone it in, which I respect Square for not doing.
Yeah, 8 new characters with 8 new stories with 8 new headphones with 8 new pairs of wheels and 8 new trucks and 8 new everything.
Okay.
The number's 8.
ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Dodgeball.
Up next, Bayonetta 3 got a new trailer showcasing everybody's favorite Umbra Witch. I'm not a big Bayonetta fan, again because of Smash, just like Alamar. I'm being genuinely honest that Smash 4 made me uninterested to ever play a Bayonetta game. I know it's been forever now since we talked about it, but if you remember, Joe, I was not a fan of Bayonetta's hair design when they first showed this off. I still think her hair looks really weirdly placed on her head, but it is what it is. But I'm happy for Bayonetta 3, or Bayonetta fans out there, finally getting their game right before Halloween, October 28th.
Yeah, that'll be... People have been kind of excited about that. Just like how you've been we're excited about Metroid.
Right.
People have been like pumped about Bayonetta.
So we don't have to talk about everything, so we'll skip some things. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, will be released December 13th. That was pretty big that it showed up in the Switch trailer, because there was a lot of new footage. Like, I guess new is somewhat of a oxymoron since it's a remake, but they're also, like, changing a lot of things significantly from the game. And most people kind of view the Switch version as, like, not optimal because it's going to be visually so subpar compared to the PS5. So that was pretty cool that the Switch and Nintendo actually like showed it off, and they're getting it at the same time as everyone on PlayStation's getting it too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Wave 3 of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe course will include tracks from Mario Kart Tour and Mario Kart DS. I haven't played Wave 2. And I only played the first wave when it like first came out for a couple hours, so I didn't play too much of it. I feel like Nintendo was really underselling their DLC waves for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like, I feel like it could be a bigger deal every time because they're adding like a whole bunch of new courses to the game for a game that's been out forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like going under the radar, and I don't really understand why they're doing it, especially because it's attached to that additional Nintendo Switch Online cost that the name of is escaping me right now. That like,
I don't remember.
Like
the
thing with that had the extra Animal Crossing stuff, and it has this, and it has the N64, like whatever that thing is called, that additional cost. Like you would think you'd want to promote these waves of Mario Kart DLC because it's behind that thing that you're trying to force people to buy.
You don't have to really force people to buy it when you're like, here, you want the N64 emulator that we have on the Switch? Buy it. And you also get all this other stuff.
Yeah, but they want you to pay the additional yearly subscription for these extra, the Animal Crossing content and the Mario Kart. Like, I'm just saying, it seems weird to me that that the new wave of Mario Kart DLC is kind of just, like, tossed in there, Like, it's not a big deal. Especially because the Animal Crossing DLC was a big deal when they announced it, let's see. This one actually makes me irate, Joe. Mario Strikers Battle League gets its second free update this month. And you know who they added?
Yeah, I know they added.
Pauline and Diddy Kong, who arguably should have been launch characters, and if not, should have came out like a week after the game came out, not, 3 months later. Like, I don't understand Nintendo. They did this with Mario Golf. They did this with Mario Tennis Aces. They make a half-baked sports game and take out characters intentionally. And it's not like, you can't say that they're adding characters here. Like, they added Daisy. They added Diddy Kong and Pauline. Like, no. These were, especially Daisy, because her files were in the base game and her art and everything like that was in the base game. They took away content and brought it as free DLC, so you can't complain that it costs money, but they brought it as DLC later for marketing purposes. Like, when Mario Strikers launched in June, there were 10 characters, and it's a 4v4 game. That means 80% of the roster is being represented in every single game, and that's just unacceptable. It's way too low. So the fact that it took this long to get Diddy Kong and Pauline, like, you can tell how worked up I'm getting about this, because, Schnabel and I were super into Strikers at the beginning, and it's just like they keep doing this with their sports games, and every time it's backfiring. Every time people tell them that it's not a good strategy and it's not working, it's not doing what they're intending, and they just consistently keep doing it with the sports games.
It is, they keep doing it constantly. I feel like in a lot of different games too. It's not just the sports games. They put a lot. It's not just Nintendo. It's like everybody. It's like, we know. Like, I can't believe how some of the, how some of these, like, companies will be like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 and they'll put the code in the game, but they'll block it. Yeah. And then people mine the information out of the game, and they're like, well, it's here, so why don't you just not do that?
Right. It's like, a lot of companies have done that. It's like the classic, like, Mona Lisa meme with video games, if you've ever seen that image, where it's the photo of the Mona Lisa and it's like what games used to be or what DLC used to be, and you got the full image, and then plus was another little slice of the image. And now what it is you have the Mona Lisa with chunks of it missing, plus the rest of those images being sold to you as DLC to get the complete picture. It's like a very classic, phrasing or example in the gaming community. So it's just truly frustrating that Nintendo continues to do it, and I would not expect that it would stop anytime soon, because this is Nintendo that we're talking about.
Nintendo.
Let's run through Splatoon 3's for Splatfest. We'll have Inklings choose between gear, grub, or fun. Okay, what would you choose?
Grub.
I knew you would choose grub. I was gonna say it, but I didn't want to jinx you. So,
all right, I have a question about the next one. The Resident Evil Cloud will let you let Switch owners like play Resident Evil Village. What does that mean? Is it so? It's like a cloud-based game.
It's one of the games, because they had it with Kingdom Hearts 2. I won't say Kingdom Hearts 2, as in Kingdom Hearts 2 also, not the number 2.
Yeah.
That it is, you are playing on a cloud storage, like an online version of it. So you have to be connected to the internet to be able to play it, and the game's files and everything are existing through the internet, existing through the cloud. So it's not like downloaded onto your Switch or anything like that. So
why?
That's a great question. So for people who don't have good internet connections, or for consoles that don't have good internet support, like the Switch that doesn't have any Ethernet access, and you can get that adapter, but in the base set you don't have Ethernet connection. It is like, it's like you're playing at 240p and like lag is happening. But if all you have is a Switch, to answer your question, Joe, and you wanted to play it, well, then there is your way of playing it. I don't know if it's a great way to play it, but there is your option.
I was also wondering if they did that so the graphics could be boosted, because I know you can play off of the NVIDIA experience to get like a higher, like you can pay for the subscription with NVIDIA, and you can play games on a higher graphics card than your computer has through a cloud-based system. So I thought that maybe that's what they were doing, is so that the graphics could look better.
Yeah, but the Switch is not a graphical powerhouse, right?
No, I know. That's why I'm saying they'd be running the graphics through something in the cloud.
Nah, I don't. I think they're just giving you an option.
All right. What else we got? We got the Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life.
Yeah, we talked about all these. Fatal Frame is that was an old
Fatal
game. You probably like
this
that.
One. It was never released. It was never released in the U.S. It was only released in Japan. Then we have Tunic coming later this month, which is amazing. We have It Takes Two arriving on the Switch.
That was your game of the year, Joe.
It was. It was a great game.
No, I'm just saying that was your game of the year.
We should play it together.
Are we going through divorce right now?
No, but we should just play it.
Oh. Okay.
And there's a bunch of other stuff that they don't even have images for, which
the
makes
only
me feel like
the only other one I'll
recorded.
mention here is the new Danganronpa game. What's it called? Master Detective Archives Rain Code. So I recently got into Danganronpa last year with the 10th anniversary special edition on the Switch. I got it, and I beat the first one, and I like it. I like the art style and the thematics and visuals and music and everything like that. So I'm definitely interested in... I don't know if it's connected to the Danganronpa games, because it's not called Danganronpa. It's just from the creators. It's called Master Detective Archives Rain Code. But like that would be the last game I'd mention here as a cool little interesting thing to check out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think Factorio coming to the Switch. It's pretty cool to see. Of course, we get another Just Dance. And then I think me and you talked about Endless Dungeon arriving on the Switch as well. So yeah, let's move on. Now let's move on to the PlayStation State of Play that you watched, and then immediately messaged me and said, only watch this trailer, the rest of it wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, it's not that it was bad. All the stuff was cool. It's just not, to our taste, because we were somewhat in a hurry last week. You were trying to figure out what was important to talk about and stuff like that. So all the other stuff is like fine, especially Project Eve, which is now called Stellar Blade. If you remember at the State of Play from like months ago, we talked about that one. That one looked really cool to me still. But like, so basically, I'll bring it down to these three. It was Tekken 8 was revealed on PlayStation 5. They announced at EVO back in August that there would be a Tekken 8, but it wasn't like, a CG trailer with, story and things like that. So this time around, Tekken 8, they actually had like a fight with the characters like fighting in the rain, and like you saw all the muscles and HD and everything, and it was really cool. Project Eve, like I said, is now Stellar Blade, and that trailer looks just as cool. It is looking, kind of like a Bayonetta game, like a Platinum's game. And I'm still excited for that one. And then obviously the big one is God of War Ragnarok gameplay. So what was funny about this was, I don't know if you saw any like memes of it online, Joe, was during the presentation they're like, okay, we've got one more announcement for you, and it like fades to black, and it comes up on the God of War controller. And it is like God of War Collector's Edition controller or whatever. So the way it was worded made it seem like their like send-off moment of the presentation was, here's a controller. And it was just up there for like 20 seconds, and everyone was like, are you kidding me? I was watching it with my brother. We're like, there's no way they're ending this on a freaking controller. And then it like fades out, and then starts the next, the trailer for Ragnarok with all the new information. So thank God, because Sony would have gotten destroyed if they ended their presentation on a controller.
Oh my gosh, I know.
So what'd you think of the trailer?
It was great. It was awesome. It's the boy is bigger. Thor, Papa Thor is there, and I'm digging it. You killed his son, so now he's gonna come and wreck your shop. The lady is mad at you from the first one. I won't tell you why. My dwarf buddies are there. We're all good. We're all excited. We're all ready to throw some more axes. I'm ready to throw that axe at Thor's hammer, and then it bounced back to me like it did in the trailer. I'm not gonna lie. Also, when I was playing the God of War 2016 or whatever it came out in 2018, right? 2018. Sorry, I was playing Doom last night. That's what I was thinking.
Doom
about.
2016.
I was always like, man, I feel like Thor right now. It's just like, but yeah, no, it was. I thought it was fun. I'm excited. I was upset that I didn't try to snag a collector's edition, while at the same time being grateful that I didn't snag a collector's edition, because it looks cool, but I also don't need it. So yeah.
By the way, I did forget to tell you that I did today. Literally, GameStop launched the collector's editions for Fire Emblem Engage, and like I ran to my my local GameStop, pre-ordered it, purchased it in full, so I don't have to worry about. It's a lot of stuff with pre-orders, especially Nintendo stuff. It goes like that. So
yeah, you're more likely to get a collector's edition going to the store.
That's why I did it. Yeah.
The stores are allotted some, more than the online ones, but yeah.
So for me on the God of War trailer, I think it looks really cool. I'm interested in. No, I think it looks awesome, and I can't wait to play it. I'm talking about the character dynamic. Like, if you remember, most of the first God of War, fourth one, the first one, whatever you want to call it, it's God of War 2018. This incarnation of Kratos, a lot of it is like his son's bratty and immature, and he's got to learn, to fight and protect himself and all this stuff. And that's because he was like 10 or something. And now let's say he's 15 or some type of teenage years. And like, I wonder if a lot of the story, because in the trailer, it's like, oh, well, he's got a lot of teenage angst and he doesn't want to listen. It's like, I just went through that whole journey. You know what I mean? Like, people might call me crazy for it, and it's not necessarily the same thing because he has a lot more experience now. Atreus, I was blanking on his name. Now I just remembered Atreus. But like, if that's going to be a huge or a significant portion of the story goes from like, young son doesn't want to listen to his dad to now teenage son doesn't want to listen to his dad. Like, I hope I have enough faith in those, in the God of War team because of how phenomenal the first game was. So I have the faith that they'll be able to pull it off and not just make it seem like the exact same thing there. But that was just like the first concern that really like stood out to me potentially as something that I would be worried about in the story wise. But visual wise, gameplay wise, like obviously it's more Kratos, it's more having fun, and it's going to be a pretty cool experience, I would say.
It's going to be interesting to see. Sorry. It's going to be interesting to see that you now have two different main main characters coming after you, kind of at the same time. So we're dealing with Thor, and we're dealing with the lady from the first one, and they're both kind of coming at you pretty hard several different times during this trailer.
And Dad Bod Thor don't mess around.
Dad Bod Thor going to take you out and spank you in the bottom. He's going to show you what's what, and you're going to not be happy about it. But we're going to have to see what happens.
So let me ask you, Joe, as I have you here, because I think this is an interesting question. Do you think which game is going to be better? Because obviously Breath of the Wild and God of War, like, within the last 10 years, probably two of the most iconic, like, well-reviewed games in the last decade. Do you think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be better, or God of War Ragnarok is going to be better? And whatever better metric you want to use, like ratings-wise, or is it considerably better than the original? Like, whatever your definition of better, which would you bet is the sequel is going to be better for you?
For me?
Not necessarily which one you're going to like more, because you like Zelda so much. So, which one is going to be a better game?
Well, I'm hoping that Zelda will be. Well, God, this is hard.
It's a tough question. It's a tough question.
Tough question. Because I think the only thing we've seen with God of War is the same mechanics that we saw in the first one. Except this time, instead of fighting Ghost Valkyrie, we fight Living Valkyrie. But I'm sure they're going to hide the new mechanics, and we'll see those later. But in Zelda, we've already seen some newer mechanics that will be in the game, which is interesting. So I'm more excited for Zelda, but I'm also equally excited for God of War because God of War comes out in November.
Right.
So I'll play it sooner and I'll finish it sooner than Zelda. So it's more on my mind than Zelda is at the moment.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, that's fair. Like, if I had to bet, because it's tough, because if both of the originals are 10 out of 10s, it's hard for the sequels to be better. Like, unless you consider the sequel or the originals 9.5s out of 10, you can make the sequels a 10. Like, in my head, I feel like Tears of the Kingdom has more potential to grow being better than the original because it is doing something so, like, vastly different than Breath of the Wild with the air travel and, traversing and all the different things that we've seen, where God of War Ragnarok is definitely different, and I'm sure there's going to be more combat options and more abilities and different, things. It's not just going to be the same, like, game with a new, story on it. Like, there's definitely going to be a lot of new things, but I feel like the potential is laying on Tears of the Kingdom side because of how much more it looks like it has compared to Breath of the Wild, where I feel like Ragnarok just looks incredibly amazing, just like God of War did, if I'm making sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It is hard to tell,
it's a tough question.
Which one will be better. It's a tough question. It's easier to be like God of War has the potential to be the better game because it's sooner. I'm going to be able to give you a more definite opinion about it sooner than Zelda, even though I want to give more definite opinion about Zelda now. Like, I wish it came out this month, but I have to wait until May. And I'm definitely gonna get a collector's edition of it. I gotta.
I hope I can, man. I hope.
Joe, you gotta. If you hear, you gotta be my eyes when I'm like not, like when I'm at work. If you hear about a collector's edition being announced, you gotta let me know.
I'll try my best, but like 50% of my texts don't go through to you when you're at work because of your brick walls or whatever.
Message me on Discord. Message me on Facebook. Like, I get those because they have Wi-Fi at work. But yeah, my cement brick building that I work in doesn't get the best reception.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably assume it's going to be pretty soon, right? If you think about it.
Dude, it's if it's gonna be like what they did with God of War, it'll be 2 months out.
Well, because I think of Fire Emblem they did today, and that's in January. Like, so if we're looking at it, probably be, I don't know, October.
It all depends.
November.
I feel like they might push it to February so that they could sell their other games that they got.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's all the gaming news we have here on this episode, Joe.
Your Pokemon Go experience is also gaming news.
But that's an individual. That's our conversation. That's not like the gaming community, PR, like a thing that happened for everybody. The Baltimore regionals did not happen for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, talk about it.
Okay, good. I was waiting. Thank you for the great lead into the conversation, Joe.
No, I was like, I already gave you a great lead in. It's like, no, we still got to talk about Baltimore, and you're like, well,
yeah, I was waiting for your question of like, how did it go, or something like that.
Joe, how did it go?
Thank you for that authentic question there, Joe. I appreciate it. So, last weekend I went to the Baltimore Regional Championships for Pokemon, and because there's no VGC until January because they're waiting for Scarlet and Violet to come out, there was actually only TCG and Pokemon Go. So at first, I was actually considering just not going in general and waiting until January to go back to regionals and events and stuff because, like, just the way the regionals are structured, it's like there's one in Toronto, there's one in Arlington, Texas, and all these other places that I'm like, oh, I don't want to fly to Dallas to not play VGC. You know what I mean? So Baltimore is realistically the only one that's actually close in this window before January. So I was like, well, I got to play some game, and TCG felt a little more tough to get into without like buying a bunch of cards and things like that. So I played Pokemon Go, which I haven't really played since like 2019, I want to say. I used to play hardcore like every day. I would I'd walk to and from work every day, working in New York City, like with the subways. I would play like every day hardcore, but that was before competitive battles were really a thing. Like PvP was really a thing. So I come back now, and it's a lot different. And you can watch the streams, and like I learned how the metagame worked, and I have a lot of friends in the Go community that knew me as a VGC caster that were willing to help me out and give me practice matches and give me tips on what Pokemon to run and things like that. So I was going into it, Joe, fully expecting to just get shellacked. Okay, I was like, listen, it's a double elimination tournament, just like how like fighting games kind of work. So it was a bracket, and you just keep going until you lose twice. And so I was like, if I do anything that's not 0-2, I will consider it a victory of a weekend. So show up at like 8:30 in the morning because the event starts at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, and then they say that there's pods for the tournament because they don't have enough. You don't just play Pokemon Go on your own phone, Joe. You actually have to log into these the phones that the regional provided, like the organizers provided for you to log in on their side and play on there. So that way you're not like doing something nefarious on your own phone and they can't check it. You know what I mean? Like things like that. You got to play by the officially sanctioned stuff that they had or whatever. So I get there like 8:30 in the morning, and then they announce everybody's pods, and I'm pod 4 out of 4, pod D. and my pod doesn't start until 2 p.m., Joe. So I got there at 8:30 in the morning to be told to come back at 2 o'clock, right? Oh, you're mute.
Really?
Yes. So my pod started at 2 p.m. Then I get, I was like watching the stream and stuff, hanging out. We went and got ramen for lunch. It was good. But I get there at 2 o'clock and they're having Wi-Fi issues because of all of the phones in like the same area working off the same router or something like that. I have no idea what was going on. But basically, they then had to stagger the matches even more so that there weren't lag moments in the matches because they couldn't have all the phones battling each other at the same time for my pod. So luckily my first round, my opponent, like, I don't know if they didn't show up or they got a penalty or something like that, but I won the first round without having to play it. So, like, I looked at the schedule and it was Zemanon and somebody else, and I had already won 2-0 or 2-1 because they got in penalty or something like that. So I was like, let's go. I've already beaten my goal of not going 0-2, and I haven't even played a single second of Pokemon yet. That's how I was super happy about that. So my first actual game of Pokemon Go, when I got there at 8:30 in the morning, did not happen until 3:45.
That's so late.
I was there from 8:30 to 3:45. And I finally played, and I'm telling you, my heart was pounding. All that tapping, Joe, every time, it's life or death when you're tapping those moves, trying to hit your Earthquake, trying to hit, whatever you're going for. It's very intense. It was a lot of fun. So I win my second match, and I'm 2-0. And then I see this guy, and he's got a jersey. My next opponent has a jersey, so he's legit. He didn't just roll up in a t-shirt. Like, I had a t-shirt on. Like, this dude had, like, a Pokemon Go uniform, whatever you want to call it. Like, he was a big player,
Yeah, I got you.
So I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be tough. And let me tell you, he absolutely wiped the floor with me. Like, it was not even close. I'm not even upset. A lot of times I get upset when I lose in competitive games. Like, I wasn't even upset at all because this dude was just clearly,
he knew what was up.
Yeah, he was leaps and bounds better at Pokemon Go than me. So it is what it is. But I'm so upset because what I had learned was that the judging staff were watching our match, and the winner of our match was going to move on to stream next round. So if I had won that match, I would have been on stream, which would have been a really cool thing, Because
that would have been pretty cool.
I've never been a player on the stream. I've only been a caster on the stream. So I would have loved to have been on the stream as a player. That's
very, very fun.
And then my next match after it came down to a game 3. And it was a really intense set. And basically what happens a lot in Pokemon Go, Joe, if you ever watch the VODs, is like you have different charts. So you have your fast attacks that are just like your regular attacks that build up energy. And then
I remember that.
When you get a certain threshold, right, you get Overheat or Iron Head or, Flamethrower or Sludge Bomb or, Close Combat. Those when you build enough energy, you can press it. And in a PvP match, people have 2 shields or 2 protects, so you can block 2 charge attacks throughout the entire match. But you got to be strategic about it. You have to count because different charge attacks cost different amounts of energy. So something like on my Walrein, his Icicle Spear, it took 5 fast attacks to charge, but his Earthquake took like, I don't know, let's say 9. It was 8 or 9 or something like that. So if like, let's say me and you are playing, and you see that I only did a fast attack 5 or 6 times, and I go for a charge move, you now know it can't be Earthquake because it's not enough energy stored up, right?
Yeah.
But what I can do is I can do fast attacks up until I have both an Icicle Spear and an Earthquake charged, or I have enough energy for both of them, and I have to what they call shield bait you, where you have to determine, is my opponent clicking the optimal charge attack and I need to protect it or shield it, which I only get 2 of for the entire match, or they trying to bait me into wasting a shield on a worse attack. And so that's what happened to me in game 3. My opponent had his Skarmory that had Wing Attack and Brave Bird, and I had called that he was baiting my shield, trying to go for Wing Attack, when he in fact went for Brave Bird, and I let that huge attack go through. And it just was... I almost won. I was literally one fast attack away. In the end, I almost pulled it back, so I'm happy with that. Like, I had some friends watching the match on the side, and they said I did a good job of pulling it back from such a bad start to that match. But so I lost that one. So I was knocked out 2-2. I don't know what number in the tournament I ended up finishing in. So overall, though, I was really happy that like, I know the first win, it's a win technically in the win column, but I didn't actually play anybody for that win. So I'm happy that I actually won a real match against a real person the second match. So I would say mission complete on not embarrassing myself in the Pokemon Go community, because I'd put you know Joe, I had been walking in the park for 3+ kilometers every single day. I'd been doing raids. I'd been doing playing the PvP system.
You've been getting it going.
Yeah, I've been playing hardcore trying to get ready for this tournament. I almost still didn't so the last thing I'll say is my friend Joe Ugarte, who's a VGC player, one of the top players in North America. He's also playing Go now because he's got nothing else to do because there's no VGC tournaments. So we were like learning together and like battling each other and like doing stuff. And so for Toxicroak, my 6th Pokemon on my team, I needed like 6 more candies to give it a second attack. And I just it was just not this game is the least accessible competitive video game I've ever experienced in my life. Like, trying to find the resources for candies and for Stardust to buy additional attacks and to level up, it's actually it's the most bass backwards, because I don't want to say it the other way around, competitive game I have ever experienced, and it's incredibly frustrating. So I'm in Baltimore. We're in its Discord with all these Go players. And I'm like, I still need 6 Toxicroak candies or I literally can't play tomorrow because I'm going to be at such a disadvantage. And Joe's like, yo, don't worry. I got you. Come over to my hotel. I got a bunch of Toxicroaks we can trade. And then he would trade it to me, and then I would discard them or release them and get the candies for it or whatever. We pull up. I walk to this stupid hotel. We go to trade. He's like, oh, my bad, bro. I don't have any Toxicroaks. He had me go all the way to his hotel because he was going to help me finish off my Toxicroak, and he had 0. Luckily, his girlfriend Sierra, who's also a VGC commentator that I work with, she was right there, and she had 12 Toxicroaks, so she came in clutch, and we did those trades, and I was literally that close to just not even having a full team of 6 when I had been playing hardcore for the last month and a half straight every day. You know what I mean? So that's how frustrating of an experience playing Pokemon Go was, to try to get into people. I don't know if someone watched, let's say somebody watched Worlds or somebody watched Baltimore, and that was their first ever experience, and they wanted to go to a regional. Good luck. I genuinely don't know how you would be able to field a competitive team. I was lucky I had so much banked up from those first 3 years of playing Go back in the day that if you just started playing a Pokemon Go account in August, if you were watching the World Championships and you wanted to go to a regional, it's just functionally impossible with how many resources you would need for it. So the other thing that was frustrating, which I'd want to get your take on, Joe, which I don't know how this works, but in order to play, so remember I said you had to log into their phones for security purposes to make sure you're not hacking, or I don't know, have some programs open on your own phone playing and stuff. They forced us to turn, because most people have their account either to Facebook or to Gmail for their Pokemon Go account, right? They forced us to turn 2-factor authentication, whatever that thing is called on your phone. You know what I'm talking about?
2-factor authentication, yeah.
They forced us to turn that off.
Ooh, that's not good.
Right, that's what I'm saying, right? That's a huge security risk, right?
If they only forced you to turn it off for that one time...
Well, the whole time you're playing. The whole
Yeah,
time you're
but
playing has to be turned off.
it's not that big of a deal as long as you can turn it back on later.
Yeah, but it just seems weird that they have to force you to do something that, even if it's only leaving you open for, whatever, 7 hours or something like that, something that you don't want to do, which is turn off the two-factor system in general. Like, that's why it's there for a reason, to protect you, and the only way to engage in that tournament is by doing something you don't want to do.
The way the two-factor authentication works is to stop someone else logging into a different thing, logging into your account on a different device. Now,
well, I'm logging in on a different device. Yeah,
that's why they wanted you to turn it off, is so that you could log into another thing and log in your account onto a different device. So it's not that big of a deal because they know who's doing it. As long as you turned it back on.
I did. Right when I lost, I turned it back on.
It doesn't matter. You're fine.
I don't know. I just felt uncomfortable, and I was not alone. There were a number of VGC players that played Go here or in Baltimore because they had nothing else to do. That, like, a lot of people felt that way. That it was very uncomfortable for them to force us to turn off two-factor. Like, it feels like there has to be a better solution than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
So, I don't know, but overall, like, your friend Adam Doricott was actually casting TCG this weekend.
Oh,
yeah, he's a dual. Daz is a dual threat, so he had a good time this weekend in Baltimore. Got to hang out with him, hang out with some other friends and stuff. So overall, it was a really fun time. Joe, thanks for asking.
I'm glad you had a good time, Joe.
And now, most likely, I'm not going to any other regionals in the next, whatever, 3.5 months until VGC comes back in January. So now I can relax a little. I don't have to walk in the park anymore because I'm not playing Go.
Yeah, now it's time to get a job.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, Joe, it's been great. Great talking to you. I'm glad you had a great time, but I want to thank you. I want to thank our listeners. I want to thank the Pokemon Company. I want to thank Pikachu. I want to thank Detective Pikachu.
Did you get your thing, by the way? Real quick. The thing I bought you in London?
Oh, yeah, I did. Sorry, I was like, what are you talking about?
It's okay. You can continue closing out the show. I just needed to know because it was supposed to come today, and the UPS guy was like super shady. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm happy it came. Okay,
it got it.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Pikachu, and I want to thank you again for joining us on this episode of Cup of Joes. And we'll catch you next time on the next episode of Cup of Joes.